Hello viewers. Well, it's the 29th of September 1995. I get home with my new console and I hear this sound. Oh, a sound that lasts generations, echoes through time. What a wonderful sound that was, that big booming tone followed by that next note that has a wonder to it, a moment locked in time for me in 1994. And as we go back to 94 and we see Ridge Racer for the first time, we're amazed in Japan. And I wanted to talk in this video a bit about not just what it was like to see a PlayStation game or to talk about PlayStation games, but to talk about what it was like for me as a gamer with my feelings at the time, and then work my way up to today. I wanted to do this with a games developer. I was unable to find one. I was hoping to do this to chew the fat with somebody to share that experience, but was unable. So I'm just going to share my personal experience as to what it was like to be a gamer. So I have to start in 1994 in this video to work my way up to the excitement on this day. And 3D graphics were new, they were exciting, and I guess the first thing that really that captured me was the 3DO. The 3DO was shown on a TV show called Bad Influence, and a chap visited their base in the US and showed some of the new games, and there was a game called Total Eclipse that absolutely blew me away, a 3D flight game. And I just remember seeing this clip and watching it again and again and again. And I'd seen pictures in magazines, but to see it in motion was something else. I'd seen magazines such as Game Fan, which would show lots of pictures of I'll show some pictures if I have them, of the new racing game that was coming out, Crash and Burn, which looked incredible. And of course Edge magazine, which had previously shown Ridge Racer, and Ridge Racer was now in the arcade and blowing our minds. At this point, we take another step back. I think of where we've come from. So if you imagine just in 1991, I was playing with Strider on my Amstrad. Let's take a look. Okay, so Strider on my Amstrad, and then I went from Strider on my Amstrad with 20-25 minute loading times to Strider on the Mega Drive. And I mean, wow, what a difference there. And then you're going from essentially a 2D plane, and yes, you've had Star Fox and Virtua Racing, but for me in the home, the step forward to the PlayStation was next level. Let's look at Ridge Racer again. You go from Strider to Ridge Racer. Just a whole nother world of gaming. So the 3DO represented a sort of step between that. It looked really impressive. The Jaguar was out as well. There was a couple of good games, but in the main, it was just not a great console, and the games for it just weren't supporting it terribly well, and it was almost dead by early 95, but we'll get to that. So 94, 3DO, we were excited about the concept of 3D, but there were good games coming out. Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo was showing 2D made from 3D renders, unbelievably impressive at the time. I remember, I know it sounds really stupid to admit now, but we were looking at all these 3D and we were thinking, oh wow, they're showing 3D. Can the SNES do this 3D stuff as well? We didn't really understand the ins and outs of polygons and textures and anti-aliasing and all this. These were not words that were used in that time. But either way, seeing Violet Berlin, visit Rare, tremendous excitement. The game came out, loved Donkey Kong at the time. It was a game that had amazing visuals and atmosphere to it. The sound was fantastic. The game design worked really nice. Thoroughly enjoyed that. And then we have the release of the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation Japan, and it just blows everything away. Suddenly nothing is of interest anymore other than the 3D of Ridge Racer. But the big moment that really excited me was seeing the first ad on Games Master. This was just mere days before launch. Let's look at it. This is from my private VHS collection, so it's really ropey.
Ridge Racer!
Yes, boys and girls, it's here at last. Ridge Racer on the PlayStation, or as the Japanese would say, it's released in Japan in 2 weeks. It is a next generation console, and Ridge Racer is the game that proves it. Ridge Racer, one of the most popular arcade games ever, spearheads Sony's entry into the video console market.
3 laps to go.
All the cars are there, as is that well-known Ridge Racer track, along with its expert driver's extension. Skeptics doubted that Namco could convert the System 22 technology of the original game onto a console, but they've been proved wrong. The PlayStation version is practically arcade perfect, and as you can see, it's rather nippy. This isn't a 4,000 quid arcade coin-op, but a £200 console, with Ridge Racer expected to retail at around £30. We'll have to wait until summer '95 before we can get our hands on it officially, but as the Mega Drive and Super Nintendo edge into retirement, we at Games Master have ordered a bumper box of pants because we are wetting ourselves in anticipation.
Yeah!
So I've watched that VHS clip 1 million times, and then of course it was the launch of the Saturn as well, and then a chap was the first one to get the Saturn, make a quick video, put it on Games Master. Turnaround on this was super quick. Let's take a look.
Sega's new console, the Saturn, is released today in Tokyo, but when some bloke in a pub said he'd seen one in Chingford yesterday, we sent the boys round to investigate. We met Simon Leung, who runs an import-export business, like most blokes.
On Thursday I heard we had our Saturns in Hong Kong. On Friday I had them shipped out to me to Heathrow. On Saturday morning at 5 AM I picked them up, and by lunchtime I sold my first Saturn.
An import machine with Virtua Fighters from Simon costs 570 notes. The official one will cost 300 quid, but it's not due till August 1995.
So excitement for both consoles, but that Ridge Racer clip was really the one that captured me, and that was the one that led me to going to a game shop, staring at the demo in the window and just jaw-dropping. It really was just another level, and again I can't stress how much of another level it was to leap up to that. Played Ridge Racer over the rest of the year, and then of course I'm going to focus on PlayStation predominantly now in the timeline. Then we had Toshinden, I think it was just after Christmas. Amazing 3D texturing beat 'em up, but in a way it demonstrated that the PlayStation was on a level beyond the Sega Saturn in terms of texturing, looks, visuals. The Saturn looked a bit blocky. It was a bit rough. Everything looks a bit rough on the Sega Saturn. It looked a bit rushed, whereas the PlayStation clearly had the edge, and we were already taken by it straight away. You could quite see that from Ridge Racer on day one. Where were we in that time? I think that Christmas of '94, I'd got my Neo Geo. That's when I got my Neo Geo. The Neo Geo was very, very, very expensive, and in the December of '94. The prices were slashed and they kicked it out the door for next to nothing, and the second-hand prices, to put in perspective for you, a game that was £130 was being sold for £15. I mean, it was a crazy sale. So I bought Neo Geo games with no Neo Geo, and then sold a few bits and pieces, any money I got for Christmas, everything. I'd saved it all up, bought the Neo Geo, and so I had my Neo Geo with couple of games that I play quite often, and I love those games. But it wasn't, and I played that with my friends. We go around a friend's house, but we talk about the PlayStation endlessly. Though this was peak 2D, we were loving the 3D. And I think working in a game shop in the early in where are we, 95 now, we were seeing games like Zero Divide, 3D beat 'em up coming out. It was exciting to see Kiliak the Blood, 3D FPS title. It was very atmospheric, a bit slow. Wasn't a lot to it in many respects looking back, but at the time, hugely impressive. And then in ECTS 1995, which I may or may not be able to find some footage of, this was a trade show which took place in March of 95. And I visited the trade show, and there were Sony were there, Sega weren't there. They had held a little event at their head office back in the day. Sony were there with Ridge Racer, Tekken, Cybersled and Starblade Alpha. Tekken was a world preview. Imagine that. It was shown in the UK before it was released in Japan. That's a big deal. All of the games were running on UK hardware, which meant they had slightly accelerated performance. But you'll see this if you do the disk swap and you run a Japanese game on a UK system. And wow, I mean, it was a show of just sheer excitement. There was a stage where players could compete and win prizes. I was too shy, unfortunately, at the time. I was terribly shy to go on stage. A little bit introvert. Could have won the Ridge Racer easily. The guy who did win Ridge Racer then got given a job to work at Studio Liverpool. I was like, damn, that could have been me, but never mind. 3DO was there, and Jaguar was there, and Sony had these bright lights which they shone onto the Jaguar stage. You couldn't even see the screens properly. And all their main games were Rayman and Fight for Life. I remember we referred to it at the time as Fight for a Good Game because it was just that bad. And Rayman, as impressive as it looked on the Jaguar was already dead at this stage. I had a friend of mine who owned the Jaguar, and it had some great games on it. You know, I'd say a handful, like the 5 great games on it. But it was never going to reach its potential. The machine was already dead at that point, and all we could think about was what was next on the PlayStation. I mean, it was just destroying everything. One of the videos on the wall actually highlighted some of the FMV from Philosoma, which was hugely exciting at the time. I happen to think it's some of the best designed FMV ever in a video game ever to this day. Let's just take a look.
D3. How do you feel?
Fine, sir.
This is D3's first mission, Commander Renix. Take care of him.
Roger. D3, remember your training.
Yes, Commander Renix.
Charlie and Delta, initiate final launch sequence.
Activate engine.
Roger.
Catapult intention. Launch aircraft.
Burner on. Maximum power.
Ready, go.
Gallant to Charlie Leader. Alpha and Bravo are currently engaged in combat. Attacking aircraft are friendly.
Friendlies.
Why would our own fighters attack us?
Defense mechanism breakdown. Evade combat and enter from the ravine.
Roger that. Alice, change course.
Descending mode. Program start. SIF mode. Selected 3. Stand by for stratosphere entry. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. Electric potential rising. Surface temperature rising. Cooling system normal.
Wow. I won't show you the whole intro, but the intro to the game was amazing. The game itself was a bit of a mix of 2D scrolling shooting and 3D shooting elements. It ran at 60 FPS throughout, but the core of it was the video aspect to it and the journey. It was a game, some games like Rez or something are a journey, and it was a journey, and I loved Philosoma, loved it. I mean, it's better than a lot of films that come out. Really had such an atmosphere to it, and I just thought it was one of the greats as you see the planet sort of evolve towards the end. And I interrupt myself for a moment here because there was a game I did miss when I was going through it all, and that was Motortoon Grand Prix, which came out in March 1995. Hugely impressive. Again, used a different graphical technique, the gorge shading. So this was a smooth shading technique that worked well to hide limitations in polygons, make things look a lot smoother. The game had some random and varied environments, very unusual sort of imaginative worlds that you visited. And of course this was developed by Polys, which eventually would become Polyphony, which we all know now as the developers of Gran Turismo. A game Kazunori doesn't really mention so often. Motortoon Grand Prix 2 in fact is a spectacular racing game, great handling, amazing technology in there as well, was the precursor to Gran Turismo. Maybe one day we'll see a return to it. Who knows, it would be nice to see the heritage remembered and appreciated of where we came from. And this was a game at the time that was hugely impressive in terms of its scale, the design, the environments. The car handling was a bit weird, not going to lie there, it was very, very strange to play, but either way it was impressive and one for note at that time, just again showing the power of PlayStation. So that was sort of the spring. The summer months were a little bit quieter in terms of game releases in Japan. We had Winning 11 X, I think it was, Winning 11, the Konami football game. We played this a lot, I remember at the time. It was just a game that just ignited everybody. I don't know why. It was by today's standards, it was a poor handling football game, but back then playing football in 3D was awesome. You know, we're moving from International Superstar Soccer to this, or from Sensible Soccer. It's just a whole new way to play. So that got played a lot. And then another game that you'll never have heard of, that nobody will ever care about, the greatest war strategy game ever made in the history of mankind, Airland Battle. Love this game, and we translated it from Japanese. I don't know how we did it, I don't know how we played this game, but we worked out every menu so well that we could play it fluidly, entirely in Japanese text. And I played the game a couple of years ago just to see if I could demo it. I can't remember a thing. It is incomprehensible to me now. I don't know how we did it, but we played it for hours, and it was one of those games where like, you have 3 tanks and I have 3 tanks, and then I move my tanks and you move your tanks, and then you get another 3 tanks, another 3, and then by the time you're at move sort of 20, you've got 50 units to move and I've got 50 units to move, and then eventually each turn takes about 3 hours each until you get to the end of the game. But it was awesome. Airland Battle, game you never heard of. And then after that we had the long, you know, it was getting to a point where you don't have these games at home. You know, you've still got your 2D games, and we had the long wait. And I remember seeing in the magazines Wipeout was coming, and I was buzzing for Wipeout, absolutely buzzing, because you'd look at the magazine, there'd be no video footage, and you would be imagining what would it be like to see that emotion. That's how we were with magazines years ago. There was no internet, there was no videos, there was next to no video games on TV. If there was, it would be like 30 seconds of something, really. We wouldn't see much. In the UK we had Games Master once a week, we had Bad Influence, and we had Big Breakfast may show a little bit on a Thursday morning, and then a little bit on a Saturday. But you're talking about some total of 15 minutes of raw gameplay a week on a good time. Most of the time there was nothing on TV at all showing video games, so the only way you saw them was to go to a video game shop and ask the man to put it on. Invariably they'd refuse because they didn't want to open packaging. You just had to buy it from a magazine review, from looking at a picture. So you look at Wipeout and you're like, oh god, what's this going to be? That's going to be amazing. And there was an excitement in us that we wanted to see games in 3D. You know, I mentioned Zero Divide. You know, wow, we're seeing beat 'em ups in 3D. Just go back 18 months earlier, and Virtua Fighter was the first ever 3D beat 'em up. We'd never seen anything like it. It blew our minds. So now we're getting all these textures and texture mapping beat 'em ups, and with robots. And imagine what worlds you can create. And what I liked about this era of video game design was, you know, the way developers could come up with a design and say, right, you know, we're gonna build like a racing game, and the track's going to go here, then it's going to go there, then it's going to go through a mountain, then it's going to go through a waterfall, and then it's going to go through there, and at the end of the run we're going to have a little replay, and then replay mode, yes, and you can save your game. If you had that conversation with the studio today, it'd be like, oh, let's see now, from a modular level, and can the graphics engine do that? All so we can't do that now, and the mounting that won't work because of the loading, and the water, that's another simulation, and that uses the CPU here, so we won't have the water, and the track won't. So in the end, you end up with such a compromised design. Everything just looks the same. But back then, there were programmers breaking new ground, inventing software libraries, doing something new that had never been done before. It was a bit cowboy, but it made for a game design where game designers could sit there and try something out without it costing the earth. Exciting times. So we knew these games were coming, and then in September 95 we had the ECTS show. So we used to have 2 a year. This was an autumn ECTS show, and this show had like quadrupled in size. It was massive now. You would walk into the hall and there would be this wave of excitement that would go around you when you walked in this hall. Just TVs, buzz, shows. I mean, it was such an exciting industry back then. I can't stress how different. And it's funny, that industry back then was worth it was worth a few $100 million a year. Now it's worth billions a year, and there's nothing. There's no shows, there's no experiences. The money just goes into the pockets of the investors now. The soul has been ripped from the industry. So back then, the industry may have been smaller, but people they put that money back in, the adventures, everything was awesome. So you go in, and Sony had this massive display at the end of the hall, and you go upstairs, and then you walk into these dark booths, very dark. And in there'd be about, 5-6 screens in each booth. And there was Wipeout there. And it was my first glimpse of seeing it in action. I'm like, oh my God, I am so excited. Oh my God, I just need to play this game. Raw excitement, okay? We've all been there as gamers when we've first seen a game and we know we want it, we need to own it, we need to play it. And there was this guy bashing into walls and, oh God, come on. Anyway, eventually he finishes his race. I was like, right, okay, next one. I'm the next one after that in the queue. He gets on there, and a race should take about 3.5 minutes, 4.5 minutes for someone who's not that good. I'm thinking rapier class there, maybe a bit longer. But anyway, this guy literally smacked into every single wall. Oh my goodness, it must have taken the best part of 15 to 20 minutes for him to finish his race. I'm standing there. I'm you're sort of almost leaning, because you don't want people in the queue to beat you. It was sort of a messy queue. So I'm sort of leaning on him. I'm quite tall, so I'm sort of looking down, like leaning. And every time he crashes, I wanted the onus to feel like, yes, you're crashing, give it to somebody competent. And eventually he walked off, and I got on there, and I felt it straight away. And I loved the whole 3D control. Now, the build we were playing was probably I think it was the final build. It was the final build. It wasn't the demo 1 build. We'll look at that in a moment. It was the final build, and it was the build that would be changed because, of course, it had the Sony advertising. I'll get back to that in a moment. So I get on there, and wow, just the fluidity, the control. I immediately got it. It wasn't easy, but I understood the control, and I love the way the craft moved. I used to play a lot of F-Zero, so I think there was a part of me that really liked the idea of the L&R sort of air brakes and the way it moved. And I was using the AG systems, I think, and it just worked really well for me. So I went on that. I did my race. Obviously, I had a couple more goes later in the day. Had a go on Destruction Derby. Wow! Oh my goodness! And there was other games there that were just blowing everybody's minds. I remember visiting the Gremlin stand and thoroughly enjoying Loaded. Loved Loaded at the time. And so we had Actua Soccer and Actua Golf, and again 3D golf and 3D football and 3D this and 3D that, and stuff we'd never seen before in 3D. Realised in polygons that, what is it? Warhawk. Wow, Warhawk was a game as well. I might have some video here. I won't have time to play the full game, but I remember playing through this and just thinking, loved this game. It was really tricky. But again, developers, a bit like G-Police, were doing things that was pushing the boundaries. They were just trying something out. Can the system do it? Will there be pop-up? Who cares? Let's just make it work. Jumping Flash, 3D platform games. I mean, it was all happening. Meanwhile, there were really good 2D games hovering around as well. But the focus at this point in our gaming history was on 3D. That's what we all wanted at that time. We'd been doing 2D forever. We wanted this 3D, and we'd come from vector graphics, or like the Star Wars behind me, to just this amazing technology that we had today, and the power of the PlayStation. It really was immense. So we leave that show absolutely buzzing, and we end up back to where we started this video. It's 29th of September 2025 as I type this, but as I write this, as I speak this, thinking in my mind about all of this. And it's September 1995, 30 years ago, a lifetime ago. I get up in the morning, I'm really excited. I get to HMV, and when I'm at HMV, there's a BBC camera team filming there as I'm filming. And I believe I got filmed as well, but it never made it into the final edit. So the footage you're seeing here, I was in the queue. I was at HMV level 1, pre-booked it. I know the people that are in this video. I ended up working for them. So it was so exciting. You got your PlayStation bag with your PlayStation. I couldn't afford any games, and I couldn't afford a memory card. I had to sell some of my games to pay for it. And you've got your console, you're walking down the escalator, you're feeling that excitement, and you just want to get home as quick as you can. You're feeling that buzz that you've been waiting for this console for 9 months of hell for the Japanese release. You get home, you unplug it, you put it all on, and then you just sit there and you pop in demo 1 and you watch. Oh, the excitement. You're trying to contain the goodness now. We're trying to contain the goodness of what we're seeing on the screen. So many good games, all on this demo. I want to play them all right now. So, first game I pick. Well, I didn't pick anything actually. I remember saying, right, I'm just going to watch this demo. I felt I didn't sleep very well the night before. I was so excited, and I went off and got myself some noodles. So I was having my little bowl of noodles, as you were at sort of 10 o'clock in the morning, and just watching the video demos and watching the tech demo, and I was just tremendous. I remember seeing that dinosaur. I was watching the tech demo of the dinosaur, and just jaw-dropping amazement. It's so hard to stress that just 5 years earlier, when 5 years earlier, when RoboCop was released, I think it was on the Amiga, and we were like, oh wow, 3D, amazing, and you'd have like 5 polygons and some simple rooms, and now here we were with this amazing, what's this system capable of when they really get a hang of it? Wow. So I'm going to play some games now, and I click on and I play Wipeout. Wipeout was an unfinished version. The texturing wasn't completed. You'll see a big difference between this and the launch version. Played a bit of that, immediately got the hang of it, played it over and over and over and over and over. I just, oh wow. And I played some of the other demos that are on there as well. Recently on making this video, or before making this, preparing some content, I had a go on Loaded on the demo, and it actually doesn't play nearly as well as the final game. And yet I loved the demo so much at the time. I used to play it so much. So these games got played an awful lot. I remember at the time I had the only game I had was a Japanese copy of Ridge Racer. So I plugged it into my TV and I had the wrong type of SCART, something like that, and it only came up in black and white. So for the first, I don't know, month or so, 6 weeks of playing Ridge Racer, I had it in black and white only. Oh, it was pain. It was physical pain, but I had Ridge Racer in my own home, and I used to just play it and play it and play it. So in a way, it was kind of a nice revelation when I got that into colour. Wipeout, I couldn't afford it at first because it was too expensive, but then somebody traded it in second hand on the week of launch. I hate to say it, but somebody did, because somebody just couldn't play it. They threw the cover away. So my copy of Wipeout has no cover. It's just an original day one, but somebody threw it away, and I've got it. And I played it and played it and played it and played it. I had no memory card, so I had to complete the whole game, do the Venom class, then do the Rapier class, and that was it then till Christmas. I didn't have any new games. I eventually got a memory card nearer to Christmas, and then I did get some money somehow, and I sold a few more games off. Don't know how, where I got it from, but and then I bought Ridge Racer Revolution at the end of the year for a lot of money. It was just it was $79.99. Yes, you don't want to change that into modern money. It was a lot of money, I know, but I got my money's worth. I love that game. Don't care, the best. So I imported my Ridge Racer. So now I'd sorted out the colour on the TV, had my memory card, had my Ridge Racer, my Wipeout, my Ridge Racer Revolution, and then I played my friends' games for other things. You know, it's funny, that summer I remember what we were also playing, Air Combat, Ace Combat, Air Combat. I can't remember what they're called, the Japanese or so I was playing a fair bit of that as well. And I remember just before launch, actually, the PlayStation, when I borrowed Ace Combat just to put into the hi-fi, just to listen to the music, because I couldn't play the game. And I used to do that with my games, my Mega CD games years earlier, and my PlayStation games. You'd put them in the hi-fi and you could listen to music that was in the game, but also music that was on CD but not in the game, because there was a lot of the audio back then on there. Just such exciting times for gamers, and the video itself of the tech demo. There was also one of the Stingray, and I remember it gave me a feeling, sort of, again, echoed in time, like the tone of setting up the system itself. And let's just have a listen to that for the moment. It's just an essence to it. It's a wonderful sound. Oh, amazing sound. Amazing sounds there from the tech demo, from the Stingray tech demo. So demo 1, it got played. The only other demos I played eventually were on the magazine. PlayStation magazine launched, and they were selling big numbers back then. But for the launch day itself, demo 1, bit of Ridge Racer in black and white, and just I think I took my PlayStation round to my friend's house and we played it a bit of Ridge Racer on colour on his TV. But either way, it was just so exciting as a gamer, so exciting to see what the world of 3D opened up and the ideas that developers were having in terms of what could be done with 3D and what could be done with the hardware, and what new gaming experiences we were going to have we just couldn't have a year or two earlier. As I say, to go from Strider on my Amstrad, which I use as an example, that was actually one of my favourite games on the Amstrad. There were games on there that were way worse, and to go from that in just 5 years to a PlayStation was the sort of leap and excitement that we'll never enjoy again. But at the same time, there's a wealth of goodness to discover now in games across the year. So you might be buying the new Housemart game, and it's going to be amazing next year. I love Returnals, that'll be awesome. But then there is a wealth of 2D and 3D games from the generations to discover, and I hope people discover those. I've been discovering more of them with my Polymega recently. I'm going to make a video about that and just how it's been helpful for me to rediscover the games that are in my own collection, let alone other titles that are out there, and how retro gaming can sort of relaunch your own gaming passions. You know, if you might become cynical about modern game development, there's lots of reasons why a lot of us are. There's so much there to discover and just enjoy. You don't need to focus on the new game all the time. But for this moment, 1995, that summer of gaming in the arcades, of playing Daytona in the arcades, of films, of action, it was just a great year. You know, it was a year that I embraced surround sound, got a new VHS Dolby stereo sound, lots of cool films, and just getting the PlayStation and just getting that technology in the home. You'll never understand the step. It means more now than any amazing PC graphics card. There's no PC graphics card in this world that excites me in the same way as that technology did at that time. It really was amazing. I thought I'd share this journey. I hope you've enjoyed it, and perhaps if you have and you liked it, I can share a few more gaming journeys, different perspectives on different launches and things as well. But that's it for me for now. As ever, more soon.